This guy was trapped upside down in a cave for 27 hours, and all sorts of rescuers showed up to save him. Then, something happens that's enough to blow people's minds. If you're faint-hearted, don't watch the video because this story is so chilling that it even creeps out the toughest folks. This is the most unusual and terrifying death in caving history. This is the story of Nutty Putty Cave. On November 24, 2009, a 26-year-old guy named John Edward from Utah took a day off from work to go to the house in Utah. And when he met up with the family, they all decided to plan something fun for the vacation. So, they decided to explore the Nutty Putty Cave, which turned out to be one of the scariest decisions of their lives. The plan was to head to the cave on November 24th at 8 p.m. and be back home a few hours later. But what was about to happen there was something nobody could have even imagined, especially since it was John's first time going into that cave. He had some experience with caving from when he used to go caving with his little brother as a kid. There's a section in the cave that's pretty challenging, called the birth canal. It's super narrow and tight, and even experienced cavers can get stuck there. People often get trapped because of their hips and shoulders, and no matter how hard they try, they can't get out. It usually takes a rescue team to help them out. That's one reason this cave was closed off years ago, back in March 2009. I found out that there were some new rules for entering the cave. You have to get a permit from the authorities 21 days before going in, and each group has to have at least 2 experienced cavers. John and his 13-year-old little brother Josh were both experienced, so they got the permit to go in. Then the whole family gathered and made their way to the cave entrance, which was only 30 inches wide. They all entered the cave on the night of November 24th at 8 p.m. For the first hour, everything went smoothly, and everyone was confidently moving forward. But then, John, Josh, and his 2 friends stop at Big Slide and look at a map to decide to visit the cave's most challenging birth canal, which is in the deepest section of the cave. It's so tight that only a few people can make it through. It's said that there's a long, tight passage, and if you get past that, there's another long, tight passage at the end. If you manage to get through that one too, you'll find a small room where you can turn around, and then, from there, you can turn around and come back, but it's so tight that even experienced people start to feel claustrophobic and panic. John and his little brother Josh, who were following behind, managed to find the birth canal, and both of them slip inside. But the mistake is that the route John and Josh took wasn't even the right birth canal route. They actually ended up in the wrong one without having a clue. John moves forward about 15 feet, and along the way, he encounters a bunch of rocks. Even though John was healthy, he could move his body in different positions. He folded his shoulders, waist, and legs properly to move forward. Now he had reached the corkscrew part, and as he was progressing, the passage was getting tighter and tighter. He couldn't turn back at this point because the space was actually really cramped. It felt like he was in a birth canal, and he figured there'd be a small room at the end where he could finally turn around, so he kept pushing forward. It keeps getting tougher, and this is where things really start to go downhill. By now, they had reached the corkscrew area. To get through this part, you need to be really small and flexible, and only a handful of people can manage it with their skills. After that, you've got to make a sharp left turn at a 90-degree angle. Up to this point, John had already made the turn from the small area, and then they hit the most challenging section. 5 years ago, a 16-year-old kid named Brock Clark got stuck right here in the corkscrew section. He was only 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighed 63 kilograms, and it took him 14 hours to get rescued. John was right there too, standing at 6 feet and weighing 90 kilograms. In that tight spot, he had no option to turn around and go back. Because of the limited space, he reluctantly had to squeeze himself towards the ledge. It was cramped, but John hoped that beyond this tight area, there would be a bigger space where he could turn and get his stomach out. He's pressing on, moving ahead with the rock, heading down in the direction he thinks is right. He has no idea where he's ended up, just hoping he'll find an opening ahead. Suddenly, he starts to fall faster and grabs onto himself, shouting loudly and telling his brother Joss, "Don't come this way! Don't follow me!" He really needs to push through using his shoulder to get out. Then, John catches a glimpse of a hole with his headlamp, and a spark of hope ignites inside him. But this was the biggest and final mistake of John's life. He moved forward and put his head into the hole, and exactly the tunnel he was going into was unknown. Now he had reached there, and the tunnel was even tighter, with very little space. He thought there would be an opening ahead, but the path was blocked. This was the end of the cave's passage. The space there was just 18 inches high, which is about the size of a laptop screen. He was completely upside down, with his head down and feet up, twisted at about a 70-degree angle. He's trying to push himself up, but the whole thing was exhausting. One hand was stuck in a useless position, and the other was twisted towards his chest. He's trying to push himself up against the wall, but he can't figure it out quickly in real life, and his feet are stuck at the narrowest part of the hole. Jos is shouting again while he was right behind him on the corkscrew path, but instead of crossing over like his brother, he moves his feet forward and then leans his head back so he can easily return from the front, hearing John's voice. The situation kept going on, and finally, he reaches a spot where he sees John stuck in a hole, with only his legs visible. He tries to grab John's legs and pull him out, but John keeps slipping back down every time he comes up. After a few attempts with no luck, both of them get frustrated, and Joss realizes they need to call in a professional rescue team for help. Joss and John decided that Joss would go out to get help, while John would do his best to relax and breathe slowly, since there was a serious lack of oxygen down there. Anyway, Joss comes out of the cave and informs everyone, and they call in the rescue team. The biggest problem here was that John was upside down, and the rescue doctors believed he could only survive for about 8 hours in that position before all his organs would start to fail and his heart would stop. An arrest can happen. The first rescuer to go in for John is a woman named Susie. She ties a rope around her legs and goes inside so she doesn't get stuck. She's only 5 feet 3 inches, which makes it easier for her to get through the corkscrew area. She meets John at 12:30 a.m. after he's been stuck there for 9 hours. Their conversation goes like this. "Hey John, my name is Susie. How's it going?" "Hey Susie, thanks for coming, but I really want to get out." "Oh, don't worry, John. You're going to pee out of here." John thought that seeing this professional help meant he'd get out of here right away, but he was wrong. Susie realized that the situation looked bad, but it was actually worse. She tied John's legs with a rope and tried to pull him, but there was too much friction in the rope, so she couldn't pull effectively. Susie did everything she could, but after 2 hours, she got frustrated and had to leave too. Outside, everyone was rescuing. Let's come up with a plan to get John out. The decision is made to install a pulley system and use a machine to pull him out. 5 years ago, Brock Clark got stuck in the corkscrew area, and they used a pulley system to get him out too. It was taking hours to move all the equipment pieces to the other side of the cork, and the tunnel was super tight. Only small tools could fit inside. Plus, at any given time, only one person could help, and that person had to be short and flexible. It wasn't an easy situation at all to get through, and every police system was taking hours to get set up. Meanwhile, they were trying to keep John relaxed by talking to him. He had been stuck there for 12 hours, spending the whole night in an upside-down position, which was tough on his body. There's only so long you can stay like that, and he had already pushed past his limits. His 90-kilo body was fighting against the pressure of gravity, and his blood circulation was all messed up. It was starting to happen, and slowly its breathing was getting weaker. Being here all night was taking a toll, and its legs had stopped working. It was really painful for John and his family to see him like this, but they felt helpless. The rescuers were also getting exhausted while drilling. They knew they could leave whenever they wanted, but that wasn't in John's fate. He was distressed, trying to expand his chest to breathe, hoping for some oxygen in the air. John's concentration was slipping, and after all this time, a wide telecom system was set up for him. His wife, Amla, was on the other end trying to talk to him and encourage him. John reassured her that he'd be out of there soon and everything would be fine. By now, it was 4 p.m., and he had been there for 18 hours. The police had also set up their system and were ready to move. A rescuer named Ryan entered the cave and reached John, saying, "How are you, John?" "It sucks. I'm upside down and I can't believe it. My legs are killing me." Mariano is stuck on the narrowest side of the opening, so he's trying to fix that first. Then, he ties John's legs with a rope and starts pulling. But John's legs hurt so much. Every time he pulls, John tells him to stop because his nerves are super sensitive now. So they take a break for a bit, and then they try again. At this point, it seems like the police system is finally kicking in, and John is almost getting lifted up. He went to see that he could now make eye contact with Ryan, and then Ryan gives John an energy drink to help him out. By now, 19 hours had passed, and everything was moving really slowly, requiring a lot of effort. He was having some success, but getting him out was still really tough. John's feet were hitting the ceiling, and it was impossible for him to twist his legs in that passage. So Ryan finally decides he's going to break John's leg. And that's when something unimaginable happens. I couldn't believe it. Everything had gone completely wrong. A bolt that had been drilled into the wall above John came loose and fell straight on Ryan's head, knocking him out cold. John, who had just started to get up, collapsed back into his original position and didn't respond anymore. That was it for John. He probably wouldn't make it out alive. When Ryan came to, he was bleeding from his head and totally confused about what had just happened. Well, Ryan, they pulled him out and sent him to the hospital. Meanwhile, John's dad, Dave, went into the cave to try and rescue him. It took another hour to install that broken police system. Dave was trying to tie John's body with a rope, but no matter how long he was there, John wasn't responding at all. There was no way the rescue operation could happen without John's help. It just wasn't possible for a 90-kilo guy to get out of the cave by himself. While Dave was trying to tie him up with the rope, he was stuck there for about 15 minutes too, and in the end, he got frustrated and just gave up. Then Brandon Coles stepped in as a new rescuer, and they set up a telecom system so his family could talk to him. But what Brandon could see, Imlay couldn't. John wasn't responding at all, and it was unclear if he could even hear anything. Just a few hours ago, you could hear John breathing, but now that had gone quiet too. The rescue team was in an area. We formed a group and decided that John was probably dead, so we sent in medical professionals to confirm it, and that's exactly what happened. The medical professionals confirmed that John had died, and on the night of November 25th at 11:56, it was officially confirmed that John Edward Jonas was deceased. The rescue team worked back-to-back for 27 hours trying to get John out. But because he was in an upside-down position, it was impossible. John spent the last 27 hours of his life in an extremely inverted position, while the doctors had predicted. It's really impressive that he managed to survive for 10 hours in such conditions. The rescuers who went in for John are true heroes. They knowingly went to help in places where they had no idea how risky it was. One rescuer even told the media that this was the toughest rescue in his 29-year career, and unfortunately, they didn't succeed. The authorities were doing everything they could to get John's body out of the cave, but after discussing it, they decided it was too dangerous for the rescue team to proceed. The decision is finally made that John's body will stay buried there forever, and the entrance will be sealed with concrete. A week later, the whole Nutty Putty Cave is permanently sealed off. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.